Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we've officially made it. Opening day is upon us. It is game week in college baseball. And before we get there, we thought, why not? We're going to talk about some award winners. This is your preseason award show. We'll discuss everything here on the Windup, from the Golden Spikes, who's going to win pitcher of the year, hitter of the year, freshman of the year, coach of the year. We'll even make some national title picks and talk some odds, not just to win the College World Series, but make it to Omaha as well. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Chris Phillips. He is Harrison Fant. This is the Windup, SEC Unfiltered's bi-weekly college baseball show. We appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast, wherever you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms, as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. And as always, we're powered by our friends over at FANDUEL. Visit FANDUEL.com/SECU to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Once again, that's FANDUEL.com/SECU to get $200 in bonus bets today. With the season just a few days away, college baseball is upon us. We figured, why not? Let's talk some award winners before we go into the season. We've made predictions for virtually everything else. Our Omaha 8, our predictions for the 2025 SEC baseball season. We're going to talk everything today, from Golden Spikes, pitcher of the year, hitter of the year, coach of the year, freshman of the year. Again, we're even going to lock in some picks. Who may win the national championship at season's end, and who's most importantly going to make it to Omaha and have a shot to reach glory at TD Ameritrade. Again, I am Chris Phillips. He is Harrison Fant. Welcome into the Windup once again. Harrison, appreciate you taking the time, my friend, and excited to talk about some of the best in the game as we discuss some of these awards and who we're excited to watch in this 2025 college baseball season.
Yeah, Chris, thanks for having me. Great to be here, and I'm excited for the Windup this year. The content is going to be incredible, even more so than it was last year, just more thorough, more SEC baseball, obviously, and just the best of the best conference in college baseball. We know that. And, with that comes the best players in the game as well. And a lot of those players in the SEC are on these, top of the boards of these preseason award lists. So I'm excited to get into it with you. And, season's almost here, Chris. I'm excited.
Yeah, Harrison, happy game week. That's where I should have started with you, man. We finally made it. This weekend, we are going to have college baseball. And just to give you guys the heads up, obviously, at this point, Monday, Thursday, you can catch the Windup every single week. On the Thursday show this week, we're going to be talking some games, Harrison, on the field. Everybody's getting ready to go on Friday. Opening day is upon us, and we've got some big tournaments we'll discuss. We're going to talk about all storylines, everything across the SEC, maybe even beyond that. But I'm excited, Harrison. We finally make it. And this week, we finally get to talk about some college baseball happening on the diamond. We don't have to project or predict. We actually get to see it play out. That fires me up, man. I'm pumped. Obviously, we've made the announcement, by the way. We are going to be in Arlington, Texas for the tournament out there that Texas and Ole Miss will be participating in. Of course, from the SEC, we've also got teams like Clemson, Oklahoma State, Arizona, and Louisville that'll also be in the tournament. So a little bit of an SEC-ACC clash. I know we've got kind of our rivalry with those ACC guys. It's going to be a lot of fun, though. I'm looking forward to it, and it's going to be exciting, man. I'm excited, again, to actually talk some ball happening on the field. Thursday is going to be a lot of fun breaking this thing down with you.
Yeah, Chris. And then, once opening day comes Friday, ground's going to be hit. It's going to be running. Dirt's flying, grass flying, baseball's flying all over the field, and it's going to fly all the way into June. It's going to be June before I know it. We're going to be back in Omaha, Chris. I'm excited for it. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, the road to Omaha officially begins, Harrison. That being said, though, today, let's talk some awards, man. Everything from the Golden Spikes to Coach of the Year, Player of the Year, Hitter of the Year, what have you. We'll keep it SEC focused, obviously. This is SEC Unfiltered, but we'll also talk about some of the top stars in all of college baseball that may win some of these awards. And let's come out of the gate thing, Harrison, like you said, talking the Golden Spikes. I mean, this is the one essentially that is the Heisman Trophy for college baseball. Who is the most impressive player in the college baseball season? We all know last year's winner, Charlie Condon. We were actually, I was in Athens over the football season when they gave him that award at halftime of the Georgia-Tennessee game. Really, really cool. Was able to link up with our Chinook Seeds guys, which you see the new lid. But again, the Golden Spikes, it is the Heisman Trophy, Harrison, of college baseball. And as we turn our attention to 2025, and there's odds out there at different books, obviously our friends over at FanDuel We'll be pushing these odds out soon. I have been reassured, so we're staying on them. Don't worry. You'll be able to place your bets very soon. But Harrison, as you talk about the Golden Spikes Award, I think there's one guy that jumps out that is kind of like the Charlie Condon of last year, where it's kind of the very obvious. And I don't even know that he was the favorite last year coming in, which when you think is kind of crazy.
I think Jack Caglione.
Yeah, I think Caglione was the favorite, but he was certainly right up there. But it felt like there were 2 or 3 guys that you were going to be surprised if someone outside of them were to win it. This year, the guy's Jace Lavalette, right? I mean, that's the really, really easy answer. It goes with the theme. Texas A&M, they're preseason ranked number 1 for a good reason when you look at them across the board. But Jace Lavalette leads the way. I think he's the guy, Harrison. And again, we got tons of guys to discuss here when you talk about the odds and not just in the SEC, but, Ethan Petrie's a name, I think, flying under the radar. Max Ballou from Texas is going to hit plenty of bombs this season to be in the conversation. You got guys like Canarella and Drew Burris from the ACC. How about we go up to Tennessee, a guy like Andrew Fisher coming in from the portal that all he's done is just hit tons and tons of homers throughout his college career. Dean Curley at Tennessee could be another. Ryan Prager. Do we finally see a pitcher take this award yet again? When you talk about and you think about the Golden Spikes, Harrison, where does your mind go? Again, you and I had this conversation actually off air on Friday. It does kind of feel like, as quote-unquote boring as it may seem, this is Jace Lavallette's award to lose, right? Like, I think if he has a big year, and we talked about it, Harrison, I just think the hype surrounding this kid, you need some of that too. It's kind of like winning the Heisman Trophy. Like, your marketing matters. It's why there are Heisman campaigns. And I think Jace Lavalette right now, as far as players go, you correct me if you think I'm wrong, he's kind of the face of college baseball right now. I think if he has the year people expect, they make a deep run, it's going to be hard for him to not win this award, I think.
Yeah, Chris. And I love that it's called the Golden Spikes Award to start with, right? Because, every player is wearing cleats, but it's just like the best of the best, the gold standard, right, of baseball. And for me, it's such a perfect symbolism of it. Obviously, Charlie Condon winning it last year, an incredible season he had, got to interview him in Omaha right after he won it, just how humble the guy is. Jace Lavalette, very similar, very humble guy, very, modest, and just kind of knows he goes in, just puts the grind in, puts his work in every single day. And I don't want to say it's his award to lose, but I definitely believe he's the front runner for sure, for several reasons. One, Chris, we talked about it. It's turned into a position player award. I don't think it's a pitcher award at all. If Paul Skeens couldn't win it, no pitcher is going to win it. I will stand on that. It's like the MVP trophy in the NFL, Chris. It's a quarterback award. It's a quarterback running back award, right? But it's just such a hitter award in college baseball. I mean, obviously an amateur athlete can win it as well, which there's only one, amateur on that list. Is Ethan Holiday, son of, MLB vet, incredible career, Matt Holiday, and then Jackson Holiday's older brother is balling out with the Baltimore Orioles right now. But it's a college award, we know that, but it's a hitter award more so. And I don't want to say it's Jace's to lose, but Jace Lavalette is the poster of college baseball in 2025 this season, playing for Texas A&M, the pedigree that they are, coming off of losing the national championship game and being the number 1 team in the nation. And I want to say not undisputed, but arguably the unanimous number 1 team in the country across polls because of how good and how deep they are everywhere. But there's a lot of talented players this year. I mean, as of every year, you got Jamie Arnold from FSU, probably the number 1. He will be, I think, the number 1 arm off the board, assuming he's healthy, which we hope he is. And I mean, you got players like Tyler Brennan, who UC Santa Barbara mid-major. We talk about how mid-majors, it's kind of gone away from the mid-major Omaha Cinderella run. This is a spot where, a mid-major guy could win it. And if he dominates like he can with the stuff he has in his conference and then, goes and plays well in the postseason, he can absolutely win it. But then, Chris, he's not pitching every day. These guys are hitting every day. They're hitting 25-plus home runs, 70-plus RBIs. And you got guys like Caden Bodine from Coastal Carolina, who just mashes his entire career. Cam Canarella, 5-tool player, making Hall of Fame catches like Willie Mays in center field to save a game, save a season, the postseason, and then just absolutely hitting doubles, home runs, stealing bases. Nolan Schubert doing it as well. I mean, he's an absolute force to be reckoned with at the plate. And then, Devin Taylor as well. I mean, you got guys all over the country that are playing every day that are mashing every single game. And it just really has turned into. I don't think it's going to shift away from being a hitter's award.
I would agree with you, Harrison. You make a great point. Listen, if Paul Skeens can't win the Golden Spikes, I just don't know how much hope there is. And he lost it to his teammate Dylan Cruz. I mean, last year we had Hagen Smith, and he was fantastic as well, and he still didn't win it. So, to your point, we know what the game of baseball is now. Everybody loves the home run. And I think you make a great point too. You're only pitching once a week. You know, a guy like Jace Lavalette is hitting every single night. A guy like Bear Jones, who, by the way, we haven't mentioned yet, I think he's a great, if you're talking about dark horse and value plays, and obviously Jace Lavallette's going to be the favorite. So if you're laying money on him, I think there are other value plays if you want to go a different direction. I think Bear Jones is a great one. I mentioned Ethan Petrie. I think he's a really good one, Harrison. I mean, listen, it could be kind of a Charlie Condon conversation or situation where it felt like, I mean, Georgia was really good, but Condon, he was a huge part of the reason why. If South Carolina were to surprise this year, and I'm not saying, be ranked in the top 10 or be a top 8 national team, but like if they hosted a regional, that would be a surprising year, I think, based off the preseason expectation. I mean, Harrison, if Ethan Petrie's hitting 25 plus bombs, like you mentioned, eliminates some of the swing and miss. I think he has some ugly strikeouts that would make it tough for him. But I think if he can do that, Petrie's got the game. Bear Jones is the same kind of way. And I'm sticking obviously SEC guys because there's other ones. But like, I don't think there's any value in taking a Jamie Arnold. I just realistically, from the betting perspective, I don't know that there's a ton of value in betting on a pitcher. It just, to your point, man, it's a hitter award.
If a pitcher wins it, but I just, like I said, after Paul Skeens not winning it, I don't think a pitcher is going to win it. And
think about how good of a year Ryan Prager had last year, and he wasn't even remotely in the conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, it just the year that a pitcher would have to have, and again, it's like Paul Skeens was a once in a generation kind of arm, and he didn't win it. So I mean, I don't know what you would have to do. And
it's team won the national championship too,
yeah.
And he pitched on the biggest stage and shoved. I mean, if that doesn't win it, I don't know what else will. But I mean, it won't surprise me, obviously, if there's a arm like Jamie Arnold in the finalist, kind of at the end of the season for it, just because of kind of, I don't want to say checking the box, but it kind of feels like that. Most dominant pitcher, I think, should be included in that conversation. But I mean, if Jace Lavalette does what he did last season, hitting 305 with 29 home runs and 78 RBIs, I mean, I don't see it not being his at the end of the year.
Yeah. I mean, there isn't another Charlie Condon in college baseball this year, at least that we know about. So it's like, who's going to put up numbers like that? So as we, we're going to I'm going to ask you to make a pick on each of these here. And I'm not like holding gun to your head, but right now today, who you would take. Again, it's boring, but I got to go with Jace. I just, again, I like the value in a Bear Jones and a Petrie and I got to go Jace Lavalette today though, man. I don't see, like, if he does what we think he's going to do, and if he could put up identical numbers, I think he's going to win it. I don't think anybody's going to, for lack of a better way of putting it, take that award away from him this year. So I got to go Jace Lavalette right now to win the Golden Spikes.
Chris, I'll take the bait. I'll go Nolan Schubert, Oklahoma State. I think he's been slept on a little bit. Obviously he doesn't have that, I don't want to say target on his back that Jace does, but just kind of that poster kind of candidate of the season. I mean, Nolan Schubert at Oklahoma State, I think he's gone on the radar in general because he plays in the Big 12. I mean, he's Big 12 preseason player of the year this year after an unbelievable campaign in 2024. I mean, he missed 12 games last year, still hit 370, Chris, with 23 home runs, 68 RBIs. And I mean, it was unbelievable. He had an 838 slugging percentage, which is astronomically high, right? I mean, he's so powerful. He's 6'5" left-handed slugger with just power to all fields. I'll take since you take the favorite, I'll take Nolan Schubert, Oklahoma State for it. I think he's in a conference too where he can dominate again.
Yeah, no, they're going to hit. They always hit at Okie State. Another name we didn't mention, by the way, dark horse, very dark horse. I love Hunter Hines, man. Hunter Hines, he's got the power. Just saying.
He's broke out. Touch factor too.
He's got the power. Guy like Brody Donay at Florida, he's got the power. There's going to be somebody come out of nowhere, I think, and be in the conversation. But
the biggest thing for me, Chris, is last year it kind of felt like there was 3 or 4 guys. Like it's going to be one of these 3 guys, right?
Yeah.
This year it doesn't really feel like that. Like
it's a little more wide open.
It's more wide open, but it feels like the media and everything's going. It's Jace Lavalette, and then there's the field, right? But I mean, when you have guys like Daniel Cuvette at Miami, I mean, who he hit 350, 24 home runs, 75 RBIs. I mean, yeah, Miami had a down year, but I mean, he did that in the ACC. that's a legit conference, right? Obviously. But then you have, UVA is a smash factory too. Jacob Ferentz. I mean, they had Harrison Didowicz coming back, but Jacob Ferentz hit 350, 17 home runs in 12 stolen bases. I mean, he's got the pop and power to do it. Then you have, Drew Burris, and the talent that he is came on the scene immediately, Chris. He hit, I mean, the freshman year he had was unbelievable. One of the record books for sure. He led Georgia Tech in average, obviously. He hit 381, 25 home runs, and 67 RBIs as a freshman. I mean, I think he's one of the most talented players in college baseball. And so, like, for me, it just feels pretty wide open this year.
Harrison, that said, let's move to pitcher of the year. Again, we talk Golden Spikes. We're going through our preseason award show, pitcher of the year. You mentioned Harrison last year for the Golden Spikes. It felt like it was 3 or 4 guys, and it was always going to be one of them. You could argue that's kind of how pitcher of the year is going to be. Again, there's going to be other guys that emerge and have good years. But you have to start when you're talking about this and your top candidates. Ryan Prager from Texas A&M. And again, as we stick to the SEC, there's going to be a battle in the SEC for pitcher of the year. I think Prager's the guy leading the way. This is another one, Harrison, where I won't go as far to say that it's his to lose because there's so many good arms in this conference. I think Gabe Gackle at Arkansas is going to have something to say about that, who's going to be the ace out there. In Fayetteville, I think J.D. Thompson from Vandy is going to have something to say about that. Cade Anderson from LSU is going to have something to say about that. When you look at it from a national perspective, though, it's Ryan Prager, it's Jamie Arnold, and it's Tyler Brimmer. And you've listed these 3, obviously. But you could almost argue it's Prager and Arnold that are going to be battling head-to-head. And I think it's which of these guys can duplicate or even have better success than they had a season ago. I mean, Jamie Arnold was just absolutely filthy last year. I mean, the numbers back it up. I think a guy that I really like, Harrison, that I think, again, will have something to say about it from a national perspective, the Grenzel kid from Oregon, I think is a really, really good player. I expect him to have a big year. Aiden Kanak at Clemson, we've seen this kid firsthand. The stuff is electric. What he did last year, I believe, as a freshman, right? A true freshman, was really, really good. A kid from Virginia is going to be in the mix. That just always happens. Arkansas is kind of the same way. You can bank on them. Harrison, when you look pitcher of the year, again, I mentioned the top names, and I think in the SEC right now it is Ryan Prager. Let's stick with the SEC. Who from the SEC besides Prager do you like to push him and be SEC pitcher of the year when it's said and done?
Yeah, obviously, I think for SEC, Ryan Prager, lefty at A&M, is the front runner for sure. I mean, just the veteranness and the stats. He's done it before on the biggest stage, obviously. But to push him and challenge him for it, I'll give you 2 names. Gabe Gackle, Arkansas, who's going to be transferring from the bullpen to the starting role. Not easy to do, especially in the SEC, but he's got the absolute elite arsenal to do so, and an SEC elite arsenal. So give me him or Kyson Witherspoon from Oklahoma. Him and his brother both are at Oklahoma, Malachi Witherspoon, but I think Kyson obviously has surpassed his brother, but as also an elite pitcher. I mean, 3.71 ERA in 17 appearances. He had 1 save last year. He went 8-3 record, but I think he's just got elite stuff that plays so well, and it's going to play well in the SEC. It's going to be interesting to see how it transitions, from facing, I want to say, a little bit different style, obviously, in the Big 12 than the SEC, but if he can command the zone, the filth on his pitches and the movement, and just, it's going to play so well, and he's going to have a very, very successful season, and he's going to make himself a lot of money come June.
Another name I didn't mention, Harrison, I also like Colton Smith a lot from Georgia. He was really good for the Dogs last year. They're going to need him again. What about if Liam Peterson makes the jump for Florida? I don't think it's a stuff issue with him. I think mentally, the big thing is mentally, can he take that next step and be that dude? But he's going to get the opportunity. Like he's the Friday night guy. He's going to be that guy toeing the rubber every single Friday night in the SEC. So I think Liam Peterson, again, Florida, it seems like always has a guy kind of in the mix. We know Kevin O'Sullivan's history with pitching staffs, and I fully expect him to take a big jump. But yeah, again, and this is why, again, Texas A&M so highly thought of, Harrison. It's Ryan Prager's sort of lose, but this feels a little more open. The pitcher of the year conversation in the SEC, it feels a little more wide open to me than when I'm talking about Golden Spikes and gosh in the SEC that can realistically win that. So I think Gabe Gackle at Arkansas is going to fit right in. You mentioned he's making the transition. I know they've got a lot of confidence in him. I fully expect him to have an elite level kind of year. I mean, Arkansas, Harrison, as we all know, is my pick to win the SEC regular season. So, and I think Gabe Gackle is going to be a large part of it.
I'll throw another name out there for you. Zach Root, transfer from East Carolina. Now at Arkansas, the lefty, I mean, he's a stud. He's got so many innings under his belt. I think he's going to be another one that challenges for SEC Pitcher of the Year. I mean, last year, 6-2 with a 3.56 ERA in 13 appearances. I mean, I think he's only going to get better and take a massive step up with just the pitching kind of factory Arkansas feels like, producing guys. It seems like every year. Obviously, Hagen Smith last year being the most notable, and you got Kevin Kopps who won Golden Spikes as a pitcher, Chris. But I mean, that's definitely another name for me from the SEC. But I will say, Chris, the ACC's got a lot of talented arms this year. I mean, even outside of Jamie Arnold, you mentioned Aiden Kanak, the freshman last year, had an unbelievable season. I mean, his stats, Chris, to do it as a freshman in the ACC, 83 innings, only 31 earned runs. I mean, he had a 3.35 ERA, 108 strikeouts in 83 innings, 29 walks. I mean, he's only going to take a step further, I think, this year. But then you have other guys, Jason DeCara, North Carolina, he's a stud. I think he takes a big step this year. I mean, a 3.8 ERA in 18 appearances last year. But Evan Blanco, Virginia, I mean, we talk about how much of a hitting, factory they are. They do have some good arms, and they, that's what carries you through the postseason is big bats, but just elite arms. And there's a lot of guys. I mean, Grayson Gridenswell at Oregon, he's going to go under the radar, I think, all of season until postseason comes. The junior lefty, I mean, just above a 4 ERA, 7-2 record last year. He's going to be elite and have a great season. It's crazy, Chris, because there's every year there's just
first year in the Big Ten too. He'll be facing Big Ten lineup, so
I think he'll transition well there.
I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna eat. I've already told you. I think Oregon is going to feast on that conference.
Yeah, and it's going to be led by him on. I didn't see that on Friday night in the Big Ten. I mean, that's going to be a horrible Friday night, I think, and he's going to be really successful, make himself a lot of money for sure too come draft day.
Back to the SEC, Harrison, before we get off this, Nate Snead at Tennessee is one that also intrigues me. That's how talking about guys transitioning. This guy had 10 wins last year out of the bullpen. So how does he transition into that starting rotation?
Yeah, I mean, Harrison, just above a 3 RA too. I mean, he can do it all. It's just going to be, can he, be that starting kind of bulldog role all season long? And he's definitely got the stuff to do so. I'm excited to watch him do it this season.
Harrison, which way do you go? Where do you lean here when it comes to pitcher of the year? Let's stick with the SEC specifically. Is it Ryan Prager for you, or is it somebody else you think stands out among the rest as your pick for SEC pitcher of the year?
I want to go, a little bit outside of it, but I just think Ryan Prager, honestly. I know he's the front runner. I don't want to say it's low-hanging fruit, but just he is dominated last season. And just he's such a veteran in this league, Chris, not just in college baseball, but in this league, in the SEC. And in 9-1 with a sub-3 ERA, and he's pitched on the biggest stages. He's done it before. He knows the expectation, the standard, and he has the stuff to do. He came back. He turned down millions of dollars, Chris, to come back to A&M with unfinished business, and he's the front runner for pitcher of the year for a reason. And he's the headline, I think, of the SEC for sure. But it's going to be pitcher of the year. It's going to be him or Jamie Arnold. But I'm going to take Ryan Prager.
I'm going to stick with SEC here, Harrison. I think SEC pitcher of the year. I'm going to go Gabe Gackle at Arkansas. I'm just – it's so funny because anybody who's listened to us, obviously, I've got my quarrels with Arkansas when it comes to picking them in the postseason, but I'm giving them about as much preseason love as I think anybody out there. So I think Gackle's going to be really good. It's Arkansas. They're going to pitch well. They pitch well every single year. I think he's to be the Friday night guy for the Hogs. Yeah. I think you're going to see why him leading the way. I think Gabe Gack, I tell you this, even if he doesn't win, Harrison, I think he's going to be right there in the conversation.
Absolutely. With a guy like I think he's definitely in the conversation. Top 3 in the SEC for sure. I mean, he's an elite arm with a heater pushing 100 miles an hour, Chris. He's got a mid-80s slider, 38% whiff rate on that, which is absurd. An upper 80s changeup with a 42% whiff rate. And again, absurd. And a low 80s curve with a 42% whiff rate. I mean, the stuff is not a problem from him. I think he transitions well. I just think it's not easy to transition from there, the bullpen to the starting role, but I think he does a phenomenal job. I think he's definitely that top 3 conversation in the year, no doubt.
The irony, Harrison, if he were to win it when Hagen Smith could not, that's just goes.
That's why. That's also why it's like if Hagen Smith can't win it, like
it's a crazy game. Baseball's a crazy game, but I believe Hagen Smith did win pitcher of the year, though, right?
He won SEC pitcher of the year.
Okay, so winnable then. Maybe Arkansas goes back to back. Who knows? Harrison, let's move on to hitter of the year. We don't have to spend tons of time here because I feel like we kind of had this conversation talking about Golden Spikes because, I mean, you made a great point. Golden Spikes has kind of turned into the hitter of the year, whether we like it or not, as 2 former pitchers. But either way, in the SEC, Chase Lavalette, It's Bear Jones at LSU. It's Ethan Petrie at South Carolina. I'm just kind of wondering who emerges again outside of like the big ones. You know what I mean? Who are the guys? Again, I mentioned, I think Hunter Hines at Mississippi State is going to have something to say. I think Andrew Fisher at Tennessee. Harrison, this dude, all he does is hit bombs. I think he hit 15 as a freshman, hit like 20 last year. Playing at Lindsey Nelson, easily could be a 25-plus guy. I mentioned Brody Donay at Florida. Tons of swing and miss, but gosh, man, he has just got as much pop as anybody in the conference and really in all of college baseball. How about some of the guys over at Georgia, man? I mean, there's a few over there that I do I expect the hitter of the year award probably to go back to Athens? I don't know, but they've got some dudes that are returning that, launched about 20 bombs a season ago individually. So a lot of good names. But again, Harrison, simply put, if Jace Lavalette has the season that I think he's going to have, and many of us think, he's going to win this award, man. Again, if we're talking about him winning Golden Spikes, he's also going to win the SEC Hitter of the Year award. I don't know that this is a very complicated conversation.
Was there a difference in, I don't think Dylan Cruz 2 years ago didn't win the Hitter of the Year, did he? I think he did.
I don't know. I don't know that he did or not.
It doesn't make sense why you wouldn't,
unless they just want to mix it up. I mean,
Well, yeah, that's why, Paul Skeens was, he got National Player of the Year, but then Dylan Cruz won Golden Spikes.
Yeah.
They
like to listen. They like to show the love to different people. I get it. I understand. I understand.
Yeah. Chris, like you said, I think it's really, I don't want to say Jace is the lose, but Jace is the front runner for this. It's in the SEC. It's him and Jared Jones. Someone will step up for sure. Obviously Andrew Fisher, fantastic name to mention for that. I think he's going to transition really well to Lindsey Nelson, and he's going to make Lindsey Nelson a bomb box for himself for sure. The ACC's got a lot of talent this year. Daniel Covette, Drew Burrs, like we mentioned, Cam Canarella. I would stay more towards a power hitter for this, obviously, and I think it's either going to be Jace or Jared. I'll take Jace Lavalette for this too, but I think Jared gives him a run for the money, and I'm going to like watching that throughout the season, kind of back and forth with them until they play, and then just kind of the rest of the postseason, because they'll both be in the postseason. We know that for sure.
Guy, Harrison, that we haven't talked a ton about, and granted it's because he's in the ACC, but I'm excited to watch Drew Burris this year. I know you're obviously close to that, Georgia Tech. What he did as a freshman last year was just mind-blowing. The state of Georgia, remember you and I were joking. We're like, all right, over, under, who has more home runs this weekend? Is it going to be Burris or Condon? He's going to be fun to watch. Drew Burris, He just is a destroyer of baseball.
To do as a freshman and win freshman of the year, unbelievable.
I'm very pumped. We're about to talk about it, but that's the thing that makes it kind of tough to predict, because I didn't know who Drew Burris was this time last year, and the kid just exploded onto the scene. So that being said, let's talk about it, Harrison. Freshman of the year. There are a lot of good options here. Again, I think everybody understands there's going to be some dudes who emerge that we probably don't even discuss. There's just going to be guys that have had a great spring that we don't know about, that opening day comes around, or maybe they're going to find their way in the lineup. They're going to get an opportunity, and who knows, by midseason we're going to be talking about them. I'm going to stick with the SEC first, because there's another one that's also, from a national perspective, I think is going to be one of the biggest storylines in all of college baseball. But from the SEC perspective, Harrison, Derek Curiel at LSU seems to be the guy, the consensus favorite to win this. Again, of course, there aren't odds on this, but you look at different publications, Derek Curiel is kind of that guy that people are expecting to be it. Brody Johnston at Vandy's another big name. Jay Abernathy at Tennessee is a guy they're really, really excited about. And talking to them, Harrison, they expect him, like, who's a guy that you expect to break out on the scene that nobody's heard of outside of Knoxville? They mentioned the Jay Abernathy kid. They're really pumped about him. Tyler Bell over at Kentucky. Owen Pano at Ole Miss is a great name. Carson Wiggins at Arkansas. Rustin Rigdon at Vanderbilt. Drew Rarick at Texas. There's so many names here, because there's hope in the unknown, right? Like, which of these dudes could break out, have a big season? It's really kind of take your pick. Again, Curiel is the favorite from the SEC perspective, Harrison. When you think freshman of the year, just give me a couple names. I know I rattled off a bunch there, but a couple guys that you're really excited to see that you think could break out. I know this is really tough to predict, obviously, because playing college baseball in the SEC as a freshman is one of the toughest things to do, but there's no shortage of talent when it comes to youngsters in the conference.
Yeah, Chris, and go ahead and rattle off all my names for preseason.
Sorry, I just
freshman of the year.
I'm setting the scene for you, man. I'm just setting the scene for you.
No, and they're all so many talented names, and obviously I think there's gonna be a name that we don't even know, like you said, that's gonna storm onto the scene. And
the other thing too, Harrison, not to cut you off, but I think a lot of freshman of the year is just, I think the reason Derek Curiel is getting so much love is it's like, I think people are expecting him to be in the lineup every single day. Who's going to play the most? Like you have to play to win the award, right? And so a guy like Curiel, I mean, it sounds like he's going to be in the opening day lineup hitting. They're talking about him hitting leadoff, top of the lineup. So if you're getting that many looks, just kind of de facto, like, hey, you played as a freshman and started, it's a good chance you're going to win the award.
Yeah, Chris. I mean, for me, preseason freshman of the year, it's all based off of two things, maybe three. I'm going to say two things, though. How highly touted of a recruit you were coming in, kind of, I think part of that is also, draft kind of, if you decline the draft or like, why you didn't go draft, that kind of decision as well, but also how much you're going to play, like you said, and then where you're playing, I think too. I mean, cause you think about all these names that are, preseason, probably freshman of the year, kind of front runner list, top 20, they're all at big name programs, Chris. I mean, all of them. I mean, I'd say the smallest one on here is ECU. ECU is a mid-major powerhouse. I mean, you got Sean Jenkins at ECU. I mean, that's just what it kind of is too. And LSU, they locked in the number 1 2024 recruiting class. And Derek Curiel was the biggest reason why. He's a huge piece of this. I mean, he's going to come in and immediately make noise, right? He's going to get the most playing time, I think, of any freshman in the SEC, maybe in the country. I think he's just going to be, like you said, hitting in the upper third of the lineup. I mean, he's advanced kind of baseball mindset and just ability for a freshman coming in. I mean, he withdrew his name from the draft and committed to LSU, obviously, Jay Johnson. He hit the ground running in the fall. I mean, he had an incredible fall with him. I mean, batted 388, take that for what you will with, fall. But, I mean, he impressed definitely for sure in the fall, and he's going to do so all spring. Another name for me, Chris, in the SEC, because we're sticking to that, right? J.R. Abernathy's a really good one, but I'm going to go a little bit different route. I'm going to go a little bit down the road in Tennessee. Brody Johnston, third baseman at Vanderbilt. I mean, he doesn't have the same type of buzz as other guys do coming in. I mean, he played in the Appy League coming this summer, 284. I mean, with 6 doubles, 47 RBIs across 43 games. But he took home the MVP honors in the All-Star game. I mean, yes, I think that's just a great lead into what he can do in the fall. He's a really physical player and what he can do in the SEC. And the only thing is, the bat's there. It's going to give him a lot of time and a lot of, at bats because of how good he is in the box. But it's kind of a question mark where he fits defensively. But the bat's definitely going to make him a consistent member of the lineup this season for the Vandy boys.
Harrison, before we get off of this, the guy we did not mention, and I think from the national perspective that, again, I'm fascinated by, Renaro Sasaki over at Stanford. And they're in the ACC now, so he's going to see the best of the best. I don't expect him to – I think he could compete and win this award. There's expectations out there, Harrison, him being like a Golden Spikes contender. That might be asking a little bit too much in his first year. But, I mean, this dude was dominating baseball over in Japan. The fact they got him to campus was wild to begin with. I think he absolutely could win it because, again, I just think the buzz around the Sasaki kid is if he's having a solid campaign, especially, again, in a great conference like the ACC. We joke a lot, but the ACC going to be a good conference this year. If he's able to tear it up over there, man, I definitely think he's going to be right there in the conversation. So I'm excited to see how that works out with him coming over.
He's a 17-year-old from Japan. He's a Japanese superstar. I mean, he's the next biggest name out of Japan. And to go actually play college and him wanting to commit to do that, obviously Stanford a great choice academically, but I mean, he played in the Appy League too, and he smashed the ball there. I mean, he's 6 foot tall, 289 pounds of just absolute home runs, right? He's super strong and physical. They're grading him as a 70 grade hitter. That's on a scale from 20 to 80 when they, grade hitters or grade all metrics for, draft players, a 70 out of 80. It's just crazy to think that as a freshman coming in. Just the bat to ball, barrel consistency and just power that he generates is unbelievable. But another name I do want to mention, Chris, that you brought up from my kind of, perspective and list is shortstop from Kentucky, Chris. I think he's going to be incredible. I think he really is going to be good. Tyler Bell. I think he was a second round pick, I think, coming out of the draft. Yeah, second round pick from the Rays that decided he declined and wanted to go to Kentucky. I mean, props to him for that. Great for the game of college baseball. Great for us getting to cover him. But he's going to be their starting shortstop on opening day, I expect. And absolutely silky smooth, fluid defender, above average arm. He's got a really mature kind of mental game for baseball, I think. He's a switch hitter who can, hit well from both sides, hit consistently. I think the power is a little bit better from the right side, but he has power from both sides. And I think he's going to give a run for the money for SEC Freshman of the Year this spring as well. And he's going to be a huge, huge name in the infield for the 2026 draft because he's eligible for that draft.
Yeah, Tyler Bell going to be a good one. To your point, Harrison, good for Kentucky also, getting him to come to campus. It says a lot about Nick Mingione, that program, and he's kind of like the Cats this year. They're under the radar. Nobody's expecting a ton, and who knows? Maybe he's a big reason that we're talking about Kentucky more than folks are expecting.
So you're taking Derek Curiel?
I'm going to take Curiel. That's kind of the low-hanging fruit. I'm going to go the easy route, take Derek Curiel, Freshman of the Year.
Since you're going that way, I'll take Brody Johnson or Tyler Bell, one of the two.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's going to be so many good freshmen in this league. I can't wait to watch it. Harrison, let's talk Coach of the Year. I think the one that really jumps out that I think it's almost an advantage because, again, this is his first year as a head coach. But if Texas A&M lives up to the hype, Michael Early's winning this award, right? I mean, he is. And I think, again, it's going to be played up a lot, which it should be. First-time head coach, first year at the helm. I don't even think they necessarily have to win the national title. They're getting to Omaha. From there, we'll see what happens. But I think Mike Early is going to be a guy that, that's going to be right there in the conversation. Some of the names you have down here. I think it's interesting. Who overachieves? I think that'll play a big part in it as well. I mean, is it just as simple as, hey, whoever makes the national championship or makes the deepest run in Omaha, that's who's going to win it. I do think of Kevin O'Sullivan. Once again, he's going to be right there. I think he's the best coach in the SEC right now, neck and neck with a guy like Tony Vitello, who, again, is just going to be right there in the conversation, especially I think if he's getting Tennessee back to Omaha, doesn't even have to win it all, but following up the national title with, dominating the SEC again, I think he's going to be right there in the convo. What does Schloss do? First year in Austin, right? If they dare I say overachieve, because, again, they're not picked in the, preseason top 10 or anything like that, but if they end up being a top 10 club, let's say, hey, the pitching staff is much better. Max Wiener will be winning his own award, certainly. But, if that plays out that way, Schloss could be right in the conversation. A lot of good options here, Harrison, but it does kind of feel like it comes down to, which of these guys, their teams, obviously, it makes sense. Having the most success, unless it's somebody, I think, like a Nick Mingione coming out of nowhere, making Omaha with not so high expectations. There's a couple of guys in the SEC, obviously winning SEC Coach of the Year, that we think are going to be right there. And it's no surprise it's going to be at some of the top programs. How about a guy, I don't even think I see his name on here, Harrison. How about a Wes Johnson at Georgia? Again, who can be that guy from last year where Georgia, we just said, hey, if they just make the postseason, it'd be a good year. And they were one game away from Omaha. So,
Wes Johnson at Georgia or Nick Mingione, what both of them did was an unbelievably incredible job at two programs that aren't historically baseball programs. And both of them, on the cusp of going to Omaha, obviously Kentucky and Mingione go to Omaha. Wes Johnson and Georgia fall a game short in a Game 3 Super Regional. I mean, just unbelievable jobs. And it's a great point. Who's going to be that coach this year? There's a lot of talented coaches out there. Obviously, fantastic coaches.
So many good coaches.
Someone's going to do it. It's just who and in what conference, honestly. I mean, I just don't see it happening.
How about the Mississippi schools? I mean, how about a Mike Bianco, a Chris Lamonis? If one of them, I had Mississippi State finishing 5th in the conference. I think that'd probably put him in the convo because I think that would be overshooting the expectations going in, especially if they're an Omaha club like I've picked them to be. I mean, I think Lamonis would be right there in the conversation.
Yeah, Chris, and I'm going to give you 3 names. Well, let's do 2 names each for Coach of the Year.
All right.
I'm going to go Michael Early at A&M, just with being a first-year head coach in the SEC and at the number 1 team in the country preseason, the most talented across the board team in Texas A&M. And if he can manage everything the way that a lot of people think he can, and the way that we hear from players and media that he can, I mean, specifically from players that I've talked to recently that talk about how great of a head coach he's going to be and how just on top of everything he is. Obviously, the in-game managerial decisions can be incredibly important and interesting to watch. So that's my number 1. My number 2, I'm going to go Mark Wazakowski at Oregon. I think the transition to the Big Ten and the talent that Oregon has across the board and how successful I think they're going to be in the Big Ten and dominate it, go on a deep postseason run. And I think Super Regionals at least would not shock me to go to Omaha. I mean, I know they're one of your dark horses for Omaha. That was my 9th team when we did our Omaha 8 breakdown, which is, you can go check that out across SEC Unfiltered pages everywhere. That was my 9th. And it was hard keeping out Oregon. I knew there was going to be a West Coast team, but I went kind of odds wise of how many more so I'd be right, but than Chris, because now we have a bet with it. But Mark Wasikowski at Oregon, I think those are my top 2 teams for coach of the year. And I think the talent that they have, obviously, and how he's a great head coach, and he's been very successful at Oregon, and he's only going to take another step, I think, this year.
Yeah, I'm excited for that Ducks program. Obviously, beginning a new era in the Big Ten. I'm going to go for even further here. So I'm going to go 2 SEC names and 2 non-SEC names for you to win Coach of the Year. My favorite, Michael Early. Let's not try to reinvent the wheel here. My sleeper is Chris Lemonis, who, again, I've got them going to Omaha. I think if they made that kind of run, I think Lemonis would be right there in the conversation. Outside of the SEC, you mentioned Wasikowski from Oregon. I'm going to go Chris Pollard at Duke as well. I think those 2 guys would be, if it's from a national coach of the year perspective, them. From the SEC coach of the year, again, I think Michael Early, if they live up to expectations, it's just going to be kind of de facto, hey, who's the coach that did the most with the best team? It's probably going to be Michael Early. And then again, Lemonis for me, sort of the sleeper, if you will. All right, Harrison.
Let me throw in 2 more then, since you threw in 2 more. I'll throw in one more SEC and one non-SEC.
I can't be having all the fun. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I thought we were going, 2 I thought was a good number, but 4, sure. I'll throw in 2 more in the hat. Definitely Chris Pollard, Duke. I just think that what he's done with the program at Duke, that is obviously Duke's a basketball school, and they're turning into a good football school as well. They're turning into a really good baseball school now. Just what he can do at Duke and what he's continuously proved so far at Duke in a conference like the ACC, definitely like him for Coach of the Year. Another one I'll give you, Butch Thompson, Auburn. I think if they have a
bounce back incoming,
huge bounce back year, I mean, they have the talent to do so, and if they can just stay healthy and the talent can produce and come together as a team, and I think they're going to win a lot of games this year, and he could be Coach of the Year. I really do think so.
All right, guys, we're going to lock in national championship picks. Also, who's going to Omaha? We've already given our Omaha 8, but we're going to talk some odds, obviously, best chances to make it to Omaha. Before we do, though, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel, because as always, SEC Unfiltered brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. So even if you miss the first few minutes of the game or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks from the first whistle until the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today. Again, that's FanDuel.com/SECU for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 and up and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and up and present in D.C. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-769-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-HOPE-NY or 8-HOPE-NY, or text HOPE-NY in New York. Harrison, obviously, we've given our Omaha 8. Let's, though, talk some national championship odds, also odds to make it to the College World Series, because like you mentioned, betting on a team to win the national title is one thing. Odds to get to Omaha are also really interesting. Odds via our friends over at FanDuel. And again, we've posted these before on social media. You've probably seen them. I think what's really interesting about FanDuel, Harrison, there's a lot of books out there that give different odds. Texas A&M is not the favorite, which is, dare I say, stunning. Really, truly. Tennessee and LSU, both plus 850. Texas A&M is plus 900. Arkansas plus 1,100. Florida plus 1,600. I'm going down the list of SEC teams. Then it's a pretty big jump down. Georgia plus 2,600. Texas plus 2,600. Vanderbilt at plus 3,400. They're kind of low on the doors like I am. You then got teams like Kentucky at plus 3,700. Ole Miss plus 4,500. Mississippi State plus 4,800. I got them going to Omaha here. Some plus 4,800 you can get on the Bulldogs. The list goes on and on. Your thoughts, let's stick first, the national championship odds via our friends at FanDuel. What's your reaction to the fact that Texas A&M's not the favorite?
Honestly, I'm shocked, especially because of how across the board media and coaches think Texas A&M is the number 1 team in the country and the favorite to win the College World Series. That's the biggest thing for me. And then the second thought I have, wait a minute, what do they know that we don't? But then I refer back to my first statement of they're the number 1 team and best team across the board, according to all media and people who cover college baseball and every other book, it seems, and the coaches. So like, I don't know what to make of it. Do you like Texas A&M win national championship? Bet it on FanDuel plus 900. Get it while it's hot. Get it now. Aggies. I mean, that's a great value for Texas A&M.
I'll also say this, Harrison, outside of the SEC, obviously, because again, we love the SEC, but we also want to make you guys money. Virginia plus 1,200.
Yep, I was about to say.
That's a pretty good one. I mean, that's because, I mean, we've had this conversation off air. If an SEC team, if a team, outside of the SEC is going to win it all, it's going to be tough for me to pick against Virginia. I mean, they are loaded as it gets. Plus 1,200, I really like the value there on the Wahoos.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing. I think is the biggest threat, obviously, to the SEC is Virginia. It's the ACC, but it is Virginia, right? And I put a poll out on Twitter or X, and it was overwhelmingly large odds for Virginia. I said, which team outside the SEC has the best chance to win it, right? Virginia. I did it in ranked based off of preseason ranking. Virginia, UNC, Florida State, other. Other got the second most votes. Virginia definitely led the pack, but other got the second most votes. But I think with that said, Florida State at plus 1,700 is a really good value as well. Just with the arms and talent they have. And I know they're having to replace 2 studs in the lineup, but I mean, Link Jarrett knows exactly what he's doing. FSU is a baseball factory. They're a baseball pedigree program. Expect them back in Omaha, and plus 1,700. That's some good value.
Mm-hmm. How about Oregon State plus 2,400? I think that's more good value.
Yeah, especially for a team like Oregon State. I just think it's I don't know what to make of that yet. I mean, to be honest with you, it's one of those things. I'd honestly look at Oregon plus 8,000, Chris.
I was about to say, like, I don't think they're going to win it all, but the fact they're plus 8,000, and I think they're good enough to at least, because I mean, once you get to Omaha,
12.
I mean, who knows? Game on at that point. So I mean,
it's great. I mean, plus 8,000, ECU plus 5,500, Louisville plus 600, West Virginia plus 6,500, Auburn plus 6,500. Auburn's not even ranked. Indiana State plus 7,500, Arizona State plus 7,500. None of those teams are ranked, I just mentioned, except, I guess Louisville, depending on the poll. But for Oregon to be, D1 baseball's number 12 team in the country and ranked across the board, perfect game. I think they're 14th. But Oregon to be plus 8,000, that, again, my first statement of where, how great teams are, where they're ranked and their talent. But then also my second statement of, what do they know that we don't? Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's definitely one I'd peek at for sure. Definitely have to dive more research into that before doing it. But I don't know how you feel about it. Clemson's good value too.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson's good value at plus 3,100. I mean, listen, they're long shots for a reason. I think realistically, your national champion, I should say, is coming out of that top 6 or 7 teams. I just, we all love it. And I mentioned this on social media last week. Like, we love a good Cinderella story but I just, the best team typically wins, Harrison. And so I think it's going to be one of one of the favorites. Again, I don't know if anybody realistically past plus 2,400, I would say, has like realistic odds to win the whole thing. Now, there's a reason here. You mentioned odds to make it. You've got odds to make it as well. How about Tennessee? You got to lay money, minus 105 to make it. To me, listen, from the value perspective, Harrison, that's a bad bet in my mind. I'm sorry. It just is. Look at the history, how often teams that win the national title miss Omaha. There's no value in laying the money at minus 105 to Tennessee to go to Omaha. Texas A&M plus 120. I don't want to say it feels like stealing, but it kind of feels like stealing, Harrison.
Chris, this is my favorite. I think I don't want to say department, but favorite department to bet on. Odds to make it to the College World Series. Because to pick the winner, Chris,
very hard, very
I
difficult.
mean, unless you want to pick the preseason favorite or preseason top two, it's anything can happen. But like you said, I think one of the top 8 teams, like I think whoever hosts a super regional is going to win it all. One of those teams, more likely than not. But odds to make it to the College World Series. Now, this is my department to thrive in.
This is your bread and butter right here.
This is the bread and butter. This is where I'm going with my bets. You know, like you said, Tennessee -105. I don't think it's that bad. I mean, I just think you shouldn't have to lay points with anyone in college baseball, to be honest with you, and make it to Omaha. Texas and A&M +120. Throw some dough on that. Throw some dough on LSU +110. But then you have, UNC +190, Virginia +190. Throw some dough on Virginia.
Virginia, I mean, dude, Virginia +190.
+190. Arkansas +210. Oregon State +250. FSU +250. Florida +250. Clemson +280. I mean, Georgia +290 or +300. Texas +290. But I mean, Oregon +400, Chris. In Mississippi State, your sleeper as well for Omaha +400. I mean, I think there's a lot of really good value here, and this is the place that I'm going to be sending people to go. Odds to make it to Omaha. Throw your bets there.
I mean, how about an Auburn +600? I mean, that sounds crazy, but people forget. I mean, they had a bad year last year, but Butch Thompson, they went to Omaha 2 out of 4 years. They had a run there. So I mean, it's +600. It might be worth taking a flyer on.
Well, okay, let's pick 3 teams here. Odds to make it a College World Series. What are your 3 bets here?
I'm going Florida +250. Death taxes in Florida baseball playing in Omaha in June. I'm going Mississippi State +400. I feel like I've kind of just got to ride that one, and I'm going A&M +120. Like I just those 3 to me jump out as I may not hit all 3, but I feel really, really good about those 3.
I should have just said 5 because I want to take 5, but I'll stick to 3. I'm going to say one of LSU +110 or A&M +120. Pick whichever you want, but that's one of my 3. Virginia +190. I like the Florida pick, but I'll go with the long shots, especially since you took Florida. I'll take Oregon +400. I think that's really good value.
Yeah, I like it. I think the Ducks are going to be for real, man. Like I said, I think they're going to run through the Big Ten. I also had Duke +450, so I'm kind of all over.
I like the Clemson +280 as well, and FSU.
Yeah, Clemson +280 is another good one. Yeah, Clemson +280 is another good one.
That's definitely. I mean, I'll say it again. That's definitely the place to bet if you're going to want to bet on postseason baseball in college. Definitely odds to make it to College World Series.
Yeah, because to your point, I mean, it's no duh, right? There's a lot of value, and also one team can win the national title, 8 get to Omaha. So there's a lot of teams. There's a lot of different directions you can go when it comes to making Omaha. That said, Harrison, I'm going to put both you and I on the spot. I don't even know if we really talked about this beforehand, but national championship odds. Again, this is subject to change. We got a full season to go. When we get to the postseason, we'll reassess. We'll make more picks, obviously, make predictions. Y'all know how we rock here. But your pick as of today to win the national championship and a sleeper, right? That's and it doesn't even have to be like a way down the list, but your favorite and then maybe your second team if there's somebody else. If you want, I will start. And I'll spare the dramatics here. I have Arkansas winning the regular season. Texas A&M finishing second. I think that's actually going to be one of the best things that can happen to Texas A&M. I think they're still going to be, top 8 national seed, if not that, right there in the mix for. They're going to be hosting, but I think this A&M squad, maybe not winning the regular season, I think is actually going to help them going throughout the postseason. I mean, I hate to say there is about as much a guarantee to get to Omaha as guarantee gets. I think this team playing, I don't really worry as much as some about Michael Early, first-year head coach, whatever. I think he's going to be fine. That's how talented that team is. I think he'll be able to learn. By the time we get to postseason, the dude is going to be well-seasoned at that point. He's got a great staff around him. Harrison, I'm not overthinking this one. I think Texas A&M is the best team in the country. I do. Top to bottom. And listen, a lot of it is just who gets hot at the right time. But I think A&M, who's healthy as well, I think A&M's got the pieces. They've got the chip on the shoulder. I think they will get back to Omaha, and I do think that they will finish the job this time. So Texas A&M right now, it's not a crazy bold pick, but it is my pick. A&M winning the national title. My second team and my bit of a sleeper here, Harrison, I wouldn't call Virginia a sleeper, so I'm not going with them.
All right,
I'm
well,
gonna
change my pick then.
I'm not going with them. I'm not going with them. So Texas A&M is my favorite. That's my pick. I'm gonna go with Clemson. Dude, I love Eric Bakich. Again, this is a long shot. It's a super long shot. Again, they're plus 3,100 to win it all. They're gonna break through as a program, I think, though, Harrison, and not just get back to Omaha, but win some damn games and do some damage as well. So I think Clemson, if you're looking for a long shot, I love them at plus 3,100. I'm gonna go for them as my sleeper again. They're not my pick. Texas A&M is, but if I had to go someone else, a little bit more value, I'll go Clemson plus 3,100 to win it all. Aiden Kanak, big year. Cam Canarella, arguably the best overall baseball player in the country. I fully expect the Tigers to be in Omaha, but Texas A&M for me, Harrison, it's got to be the pick. And I'll say this, I won't judge you if you go the same, because A&M on paper is the best team in the country. And again, this is baseball. It doesn't really matter, but I love what A&M's got this year. I got to go with the Aggies right now. Subject to change. I got to go with the Aggies right now.
Yeah, and obviously I have not done my research on who I want to win the national championship, who I predict and expect, analytically to win it. So definitely on the spot.
I love putting you on the spot, Harrison.
And I don't mind it at all. I'm going to the LSU Tigers, Chris. I'm sticking with it. At plus 110 to make it to the World Series, and then plus 850. The top 4 team, we talk about, I think a top 8 team that hosts a super regional, obviously, is going to A, make it to Omaha, B, win it, or at least be in the finals. So for me, that's LSU. I just think the pedigree of a program that they are, the talent that they have, the amount of returning starters and studs throughout the lineup. I don't want to say they're, as deep as A&M, but I think they're all on the cusp of how deep as A&M this year is. And they had the number 1 freshman recruiting class in general in the country this year, Chris, coming in 2024 into the fall. And the lineup, like I said, studs. You got 3 guys transferring in that I think are going to plug in really nicely, as Luke Hernandez, the catcher for Indiana State, and, Daniel Dickinson from Utah Valley that we've been talking about a lot just preseason. But I think, LSU is a pitching factory too. And you're going to get Anthony Einstein from UC San Diego coming in, touching 97. I think he thrives in LSU's pitching factory. Look at what it did for Paul Skeens. Obviously, that was kind of written in the books, it felt like. But Chase Shores is going to pitch for them too. Cade Anderson's going to be their Friday night guy probably to start. But I just think they're so talented. Then Jay Johnson, like I said, pedigree. He knows the standard, right? He's won it before. He's been there. Just the managerial aspect of it for me, I think, is a big piece too. So that's going to be my kind of, I don't want to say, favorite to win it, but my odds pick to win it. Long shot, I was going to say Virginia, but then you said Virginia is not a long shot. So
they feel like a favorite to me. You tell me if I'm wrong. If you want to go UVA, that's fine. If you want to go UVA,
I'll stick with it. Outside of top 8.
Because they're literally the favorite from the ACC.
Top 8 is Tennessee, LSU, A&M, Arkansas, Virginia, Florida, FSU, Wake Forest. I think that's top 8 in order to win it odds wise via FanDuel. I'm going to go Clemson as well. I hate that you picked that. I was going to pick that as well. I just think the studs that they have in the lineup that are returning, Eric Bakich, I think, is an elite college baseball head coach and great at getting the most out of players. And they were on this cusp of it last year, and they're getting a ton of these pieces back. Aiden Kanak, just the freshman year that he had, I think he only gets better this year. And then a name that we didn't mention, Chris, that I think maybe is this year's Aiden Kanak. I think it stays in Clemson, South Carolina. Honestly do, because the talent that they have with freshmen coming in, another freshman arm, Chris, it's going to be crazy to see, because Talon Bell might have Aiden Kanak type freshman year. Just a stud that I think could do a lot of damage and be a huge piece for this pitching roster for Clemson. And at plus 3,100, I'm going to go with that because of how talented this roster is, the preseason expectations, and the depth that they have. Clemson's my long shot.
So, guys, there you have it. The SEC Unfiltered Preseason Awards show for the 2025 college baseball season in the books. We'd love to hear from you. Who's your pick to win Golden Spikes, Pitcher of the Year, Hitter of the Year, Coach of the Year, Freshman of the Year? How about your national title pick, your Omaha 8, everything in between? We always love hearing from you guys interacting. It is going to be
Let us know who you're betting on for national championship. Let us know your odds to make it the World Series. I want to know all these bets. Let us know in the comments. Tweet at us, mention us, whatever it is. Let us know.
Yeah, it's going to be one hell of a season, Harrison. So many great teams, so many great players, so many great coaches. And we can't wait to go through it and enjoy it with each and every single one of you. Harrison, appreciate you taking the time, my friend. Really good stuff. Another episode of the Wind Up in the books. And again, we'll be back on Thursday, finally talking some baseball on the field. Opening day is upon us. Harrison, I know I speak for you when I say I cannot freaking wait. It is going to be a blast. Again, we're going to be in Arlington, Texas for the tournament this weekend. The Shriners Children's College Showdown there at Globe Life Field. So it's going to be some great baseball. We just mentioned Clemson as a dark horse. They're going to be there. But, of course, Texas and Ole Miss from the SEC. Can't wait to hang out with all the great Longhorns and the Rebels and get a look. And, again, take in some great college baseball. And there's great baseball all across the country beginning this weekend. And then from then on, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, weekends. Cannot wait. Guys, we made it. There's not a weekend without college baseball until June the 27th from this point forward.
And just know, Chris, there'll be midweek madness. Of course, we're making that a thing this year. And for everyone watching, got the new SEC Unfiltered hoodie on. Chris hooked us all up with the merch this year. You will be seeing us at a ballpark near you, an SEC ballpark near you, of course, wearing SEC Unfiltered merch. All the gear you can get online. Grab it while you can. It's awesome. Chris did a great job with it. And, we'll be repping it across the board. We'll be repping it all postseason and wearing it in Omaha, Chris. I'm excited. We'll be in Omaha soon.
Yeah. Hey, before you know it, man, we got a great season ahead. Again, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Check us out via podcast where you get your podcast. You can also find us across all social media platforms as well as our website, secunfiltered.com. The Wind-Up coming back to you on Thursday as we break down the weekend upcoming. Opening day and SEC baseball is officially back. Until then, appreciate you all tuning in. For Harrison Fant, I'm Chris Phillips. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your week, and we will talk to you all on Thursday.